All right, I think we are live. Um, well, first of all, welcome to this session. We're going to be talking about Paseo, Polkadot Testnet. Um, and I hope, I don't know, you have been like having a great time with the other sessions prior to this when everybody's enjoying the hackathon. So let's dive into it. But first of all, let me say hi to you all. Let me introduce myself. My name is Alejandro. Mostly everywhere you can find me as Alemart, as it's spelled in there. And I'm part of a team called Rogue. Where we do or we try to contribute in many different ways within the Polkadot ecosystem, right? We are building Pub, which is like a toolbox, like an all-in-one Polkadot SDK development CLI tool for developers. Pretty nice. Like we contribute a lot as well to Ink, which is like a Rust-based smart contract language that runs on Wasm VMs and Polka VMs. So it's very cool. And we contribute and maintain Paseo, the Testnet, which is what we're going to be talking about today. And aside from this, we did like several things, more like service oriented, but like staying focused, talking about Paseo. This is a task that we don't do alone at Rogue. We are joined by a multitude of teams across the ecosystem, right? Mainly Contax is the other partner that helps us a lot, taking care of like all the runtimes and core infrastructure that runs the testnet. And aside from that, there's like a lot of participants that are like running infrastructure to run the testnet, right? Some names on the screen, 100% not all of them, but you get the idea. And why is this important? Well, it's a little bit of context, but this is something that makes Paseo very, very interesting. And in my opinion, like it makes like the testnet super cool, which is like it's 100% community driven and community run, maintained, and everything. Like it's not a single effort by one party. This is like a joint effort. There's like more than 30 individual contributors being these like companies, individual agents or contributors, right? Like there is a lot of people involved, and like the governance and how like the testnet is managed and grown and what activities are done in it is like uh, all of it is decided via an open governance, right? It's like supported by Polkadot DAO itself economically, and all the Polkadot ecosystem is like together in the mission of like supporting this community-run testnet, having it run, having it be present, and having it be available for all the community and all the builders to be used, which is pretty amazing. Aside from that, like all the people involved, we are kind of like working with the mission of like minimizing breaking changes, maximizing uptime, and providing as much support as we can to the builders that are using Polkadot's testnet, right? Like to everyone that wants to build on Polkadot, we're trying to be there for them. We're trying to help them. We're trying to support them in that like more day-to-day tasks or like more on the infrastructure side. Like we just like try to provide like a good test bed, a good growing ground for apps to blossom and grow in the Polkadot ecosystem, right? So there is this thing with Paseo, basically, or mostly because of the history that precedes this testnet, which we try to call it like a stable testnet, right? And for this, or like to expand on this, I'm gonna give some context. I'm gonna take a step back and kind of like talk about like what infrastructure, what testnets are present today, what production chains are exist today, right? It's like on the testing side, we have mainly two, which are Western, exemplified on the left, and then Paseo, the green circle. Western is mostly used as a, as an inner testing chain QA process as the runtimes and as the features are being built. Most likely, you know, unstable versions of these features are launched on Western for mere testing purposes, things that are not that polished, that are not ready for maybe the broader community to start using yet. All of these kind of like more very, very, very edge state features can be found on Western, and eventually they land on Paseo. And then on the production side, we have like Kusama and Polkadot, which will eventually, receive all the features that are passing through the test. Of course, once they are more stabilized, but this is kind of like the idea. And there is clear division between these two testnets that exist within Polkadot, where we have one where all the protocol testing is being done, which is Western, and we have another one, which, okay, it's Paseo, is focused on being an application and developer sandbox, so that people building on Polkadot can have like a more or less stable ground where they can deploy their applications, where hackathons can run, where we can invite people in communities to like start building here under the premise that we won't break these testnet by deploying new features too often, or maybe things that haven't been tested that much, that will cause maybe like a breaking change in your application. So there's like a, an intent for maximizing the stability within the network to benefit builders and people willing to use the testnet as much as possible. And also like when we are talking about like testnet versus production, how's this picture look? How does the picture look like? What can I get, from Paseo if I'm working on the testnet? So as I was mentioning before, it's a little bit more detail here. The flow, like the lifespan of the features, or like how they appear and end up on production, goes a little bit like this. The Polkadot Fellowship, mainly the technical team taking care of like shipping new features and maintaining like most part of the Polkadot ecosystem, readies and works and iterates over like the new things that are gonna come out, most likely, or like more often, like during that process, things will get like deployed on Western multiple times until they are in, they are in a happy place. They are the people working on this, like fellows working on these features, are happy. They are confident that these modules, the code is like stable enough to be moved forward, to be released. Eventually, they will do a release on the Polkadot Fellowship GitHub organization and runtimes, and then from that day on, Paseo will enact these changes within like a window of 15 days. That's kind of like usually the contract that we are working with. It's like all changes should be on Paseo within 15 days of their release, such that there's like enough time for developers to start testing things, either new developers or projects that have already like been deployed on Paseo for a long time, and they are just, catching the new features that are being deployed on it, test if anything breaks, if there's anything unexpected, if they can like maybe roll new stuff before, or like start working on new stuff before these new features end up on Kusama or on Polkadot down the line. The timelines might vary a little bit. Security patches are also most likely being enacted with before 15 days, and well, you get the idea, right? It's like we try to not test breaking changes in Paseo directly, so that everyone that is using the testnet can get a more or less stable ground for run their software, run their applications, invite users to test their applications on platforms that should not go down. Here there's like a little table where you can get, or at least you can visualize this, what I'm saying. Paseo receives like most of the features way before Kusama and Polkadot, and this is not like a comprehensive list. Like there's like just like few items here. The list goes on, could be bigger, but if you're testing on Paseo, if you're using Paseo, you are most likely seeing features and experiencing like a network that is going to be released in Kusama and Polkadot down the line, which is usually very handy from the builder's perspective. And if I'm a builder, and I want to use Paseo and I want to build on Paseo, and I'm thinking, or I've already like been building on Polkadot for some time, and what is the upside? Like, what am I getting? Is it just a testnet? There's something else. Like, how can I use it? What? This is a little bit like Polkadot specific. The vocabulary that I'm gonna use right now is like Paseo currently has all the core infrastructure deployed. This means that Paseo as a relay chain, as a network, is like, it's deployed at itself, and connected to it, we have like other chains. Usually, you will see them by the name of parachains. They are, something akin to a rollup. There are other blockchains that are being secured by the underlying relay chain, which are these five. These kind of like form a little bit kind of like the core offering of features that Polkadot and the testnet is providing to the builders and to the users, which basically is like asset management. You can mint assets akin to like ERC20s, NFTs. You can run smart contracts. There's like a core time market, which is relevant for those builders creating other blockchains that want to connect to the Polkadot ecosystem. There is bridging, there's like identity solutions, and we have like these collective chains where, fellowships or like groups of people can kind of like formalize their organization into like some hard contract written in code and deployed within the runtime, the logic of this chain. Right? And this will be kind of like the core infrastructure that makes Paseo and Polkadot offering like very like when it comes to like, okay, what is here? What are the native features that this platform is providing their users? But it's not the only thing that one can find in Paseo. There's like a multitude of other chains and solutions that are deployed today in Paseo that are using testnet, that are, themselves benefiting from having this test ground where they can deploy new upgrades and kind of like see if everything like that they were like expecting doing testing, integration testing, or like the release process kind of like checks their expectations. And also they can offer this testing ground, like their applications deployed on Paseo, to their users, so they can maybe experiment, maybe learn, maybe like, have a great hackathon experience on their side. So, there's not only the core infrastructure, there's like an interconnected suite of like applications that are right now deployed on Paseo that can, that users can explore, that can use, right? And not only, like there are applications deployed currently on Paseo, but it's also like the test bed for you all to deploy new Web3 applications. And you can do this whether you're using like Polkadot SDK native stack, or maybe you're more friendly, or you're like EVM friendly and you want to like deploy applications with, a stack that is more like EVM focused. Like, well, thanks to the latest upgrades and to the latest deployments that have been, that are arriving to Polkadot, and hence they have been deployed on Paseo. Now developers can start, deploying applications that are not inherently tied or coupled to Polkadot SDK specific tooling stack, right? For example, on the screen, like in the middle, we have like Ink smart contracts. We have Solidity smart contracts. Both of these could be deployed on, can be deployed on Paseo, could be deployed on Polkadot in the future once this is deployed there. And ends like the tooling that goes all the way down can be used across the board. But there's also like other cool things that one could explore within Paseo. Moving to the left of the slide, like we have like certain bridging solutions running within the testnet, and one could use like, Snowfork, Snowbridge, let us say, like Hyperbridge to connect to other ecosystems and to test these bridges that are running in production, one could start playing and testing solutions that are like bridging assets from Ethereum or other ecosystems into like Paseo, and maybe experiment with a little smart contract integrations of these like bridge assets and how they could interact with other already deployed solutions, right? But if one is interested in like building blockchains and building a rollup, there's also like one-click solutions like the Polkadot deployment portal that is connected to Paseo and gives like a great experience to newcomers or you know people that doesn't want to bear the responsibility of like doing everything from their terminal um to get a runtime, get a new chain deployed in a very few simple steps, get that running, get that feedback loop going, and see if that is something that they are interested in further exploring, or is something that improves maybe their current flows. You know, um, there is a lot that can be done within the testnet. It's basically a playground. It's basically a white canvas that is ready, that we are taking care of to have ready for you all developers to build and deploy all your applications. And on this journey, we're trying to support you all as best as we can. Um, on all of this, like I have this screenshot here that maybe it's a little bit confusing if reading this for the first time, but basically, it is given like a comparative between costs. It's a testnet, so the tokens, of course, don't have any intrinsic value. But the numbers and the way we have like built the testnet tries to like follow the cost that one will find in Polkadot when deploying and executing transactions, whatever, on production, right? In that way, there is like a closer, the expectation that we're generating between testnet and production is closer. Maybe it's not one to one, maybe it's not perfectly the same, but we're trying to maintain these two as in sync as possible, such that users that are testing on Paseo can get like a very, I don't know, can get like a good experience there, but also very informative in the sense that whatever they are seeing and whatever numbers they are getting from the tests runs or the integration testnet on the testnet can be then like all that learning, all that information can then be applied to production, right? That's a little bit the intention, and that's what we are trying to achieve. And I think more or less we're in the good track. So I didn't want to speak too much about the testnet because this is mostly for builders, but I've prepared like a little QA here at the end, which is like I think a few questions or like it's like a few items that people trying to use the testnet for the first time might have questions about or like might uh, be interested in knowing more. It's like okay, something as simple as how do I get like pass tokens? These like testnet tokens that I need to interact with the network and deploy my contracts or like pay for like fees, right? Well, there's a faucet deployed. It's on the domain that you've seen on screen, faucet.polkadot.io. It's like a really neat application where you like basically need to input your wallet address and request tokens, and I think it will serve you like 5K tokens per day. So it's plenty. But I mean, it's always like these values can be configured, and we are trying to have like a very direct communication between like the people using testnet and the people maintaining that, like myself, such that we can, you know, configure all these tools and all these like parameters that are at the end of the day creating the experience that the user is getting. We just want to like configure everything and prepare everything such that developer experience and the user experience is as good as possible. This one is for the people like building chains, building. How do I obtain core time? in Paseo. Okay, like if you are more or less familiar with Polkadot, like the way like these rollups pay for the security they are getting for the relay chain is basically by paying for core time. This is kind of like a um, it's like I don't know how to explain it best, but to make it like very friendly. But it's basically users will pay for a certain amount of time that their chain will be secure by this like underlying chain, like the relay. Well, um, good news is like the process is the very same one that anyone will see on production, where one have to go to the core time market and um, go through a sale, buy some core time, buy some regions, and apply those regions to your chain. Um, they are great applications in the ecosystem. Ourselves, we will recommend people to use Region X. Sorry for not putting the link on the screen. Like it's in the slides. I think maybe the slides can be shared afterwards. If not, well, I think you will be able to find it just looking for it, or in the Polkadot documentation should be linked somewhere. But it's like a nice interface where users get all the information about like what's the state of the sale, like how much a new core costs, when is the sale finishing, and you can see all the graphs, the curves, um, quite easy to navigate. So, this might be a little bit overwhelming. It's quite a big piece of infrastructure. There's a lot of moving parts. I need more support. Maybe I don't know. It's my first time interacting with the Polkadot SDK stack. It's my first time interacting with Paseo. I need to ask a few more questions. Well, there's like a matrix room open to the public, which is it's on screens, Paseo Testnet support, columnparty.io, where everyone is welcome to join and basically ask whatever. Most likely, you will find a lot of people that is very willing to help and very willing to provide guidance and pointers to the right resource, or provide directly like solutions to your question. There are good sources of information for this kind of things. Science has always been great. But if you prefer like a more contact with the people involved in taking the testnet with all users, I will invite you to join that section. And then maybe one a little bit more technical is like, hey, can I see the logs of the nodes that are running all this infrastructure? Maybe I need to see the logs because I don't know. I'm doing something with an application. I'm doing like some cross-chain messages, and I want to see the logs of what is going on. The answer is yes. The logs are available for the public, for everyone to see. Most of the nodes maintaining Paseo, maintaining the testnet, are sending logs to public login service where users can go and kind of like read in a Grafana dashboard and read through the logs. This one is a little bit more technical. This one might be a little bit overkill. But given that the whole infrastructure of Paseo is not maintained by a single provider, then having access to the logs becomes a little bit of a challenge, because like you have a lot of people running very different machines that are getting logs their own, and if something happens that needs to be debugged, or someone needs the logs for for something for the application, well, we have worked on a way to provide logs to the users of Paseo. Everything that I'm saying here, all these links, everything can be found way more structured and with better pointers in the Paseo landing page and the Paseo website, which is paseo.site. The QR code should lead you to the website. I think it's pretty clean. I think it's pretty organized. There you can find not only links to like the relevant documentation for builders, but also like things like the chain specs, which is like if, for example, you are running like RPCs or nodes, you might be interested in getting such that you can connect to the proper chain and synchronize it all these resources can be found there. Um, Also, the different like tables and comparatives that I've been showing through the presentation are posted in the webpage. We try to keep them up to date as possible, such that in a quick glance you can see, oh yeah, this is deployed in Paseo, this is not deployed in Paseo, or you know, I've been like testing this for like 2 weeks and it looks like it has been deployed on Kusama, but it's not yet on Polkadot, for example, right? Um, so that is kind of like an introduction to the testnet. Um, Long story short is if it's if Paseo is not enabling you to do whatever you need, please shout. It should um, the, this is basically a tool. It's an environment that is like a tool for all of us that are building in Polkadot to be able to you know build better, iterate a little bit faster maybe, and have a playground to just well um, be able to build without many worries, right? We're trying to make it stable. We're trying to be a good home for out of hackathons. So um, please hack, please build. Um, Use Paseo is there for you. And if something is not of your liking, or if you find like that some experiences are like not as good as you think they should be, please reach out to us, and we are always more than happy to help to trying to improve things. We're working quite hard on having everything polished and working like clockwork. So um, all the feedback and comments and appreciation posts are very welcome. Um, so far, this is everything that I wanted to tell you all about the testnet. And if there are questions, I'm happy to take questions. I don't know if we can do that. Okay, I'm reading through the chat right now, but I don't see many questions also. Um, all right. Then I think we might be able to call it here. I'm gonna give like a few more minutes to for viewers to drop questions. And otherwise, I hope you all start building on Paseo, start deploying your hackathon projects on Paseo. All right, let's call it here then.